Next on the agenda is we had scheduled the discussion on the long and short ordinances that we've been holding back on for some time. It's been mentioned at court meetings and elsewhere that this would be discussed, and in part with us, Mr. Clay Herrmann has spent time with me and many others and has made a presentation he would like to present tonight. But before we get to that, Clay, we've got a problem. We've got a website out there that's confusing the public, and it's using the seal of the county and acting as a county website, and that needs to come down. What you do in the draft form and all the work that you've done is one thing, but to have it as looking like the official county website is creating confusion among the citizens of the county. I think you need to scrub that, take it down.
Okay, well, this is the first mention anyone except Judge Young had asked me, Larry, in the Justice Griffin in the past, if I would make sure there was something on the side that indicated there wasn't an official site, and there's a link to the official site on that site. But I could do more. I don't want to shut down the site because it's a valuable information service, but I'll be happy to visit with you and do something appropriate if you think more.
You're going to get a letter telling you to take it down, is what I'm telling you nicely, because it is creating problems with the county.
What kind of problem?
Confusion among citizens.
It's providing information to citizens.
Well, I think when he talks about taking it down, he's not necessarily talking about taking the website down. He's talking about removing anything that remotely looks like a county website. I don't think he wants you to just shut your system down, just change your logo or whatever it is that makes it look like a county website.
You know, on a parallel matter, under Notary Public, several years ago, we had all the notaries in Arkansas had the seal of the great state of Arkansas. And Governor Buckley researched that. He was governor and said that's not appropriate. So all of the PC issued a statement, mandate, whatever, that we could no longer use the seal of the state of Arkansas when we did our notary. And we all changed over to the stamps that are simplistic, but don't, and it may say Notary Public for Garland County, Arkansas, but that's all it can say pretty much. It gives your number and when your commission expires. So it's kind of similar to what this is.
Okay, well, I'm happy to, if we can talk about this at length in a public meeting if you want to, but I'm blindsided by this right now.
Well, but you need to put
I'd be happy to visit privately.
Well, it's Clay Hermann's website. You need to, if you're going to keep it up there, then you need to identify it as such instead of it's misleading to people that it's has to do with the county.
Well, would you visit with me further, maybe looking at it with me in some days ahead? Sure. Larry, and I'll be happy to take a look at that.
This may be just about the seal.
Well, the seal and
I don't know.
I don't either. I'm just saying, and I didn't know about that part of it. I'm just telling you from my perspective as a Notary Public, 30 years or whatever, that we had to change what we did because the governor of the state of Arkansas said you can't use the state seal anymore if you're a county or a Notary Public within a county.
It'd still be okay to use the American flag if it's not an official U.S. flag?
I'm just telling you what Governor Huckabee did and what effect it had on all the Notary Publics, Notaries Public in Arkansas. I'm just telling you what that is.
All right.
I'm not saying what you should or shouldn't do.
And I'll say to you and any of you that want to visit with me about that at length, we can do that and we can look at it and make your concerns known to me, please. And I'll certainly give them I hope appropriate consideration and make whatever action is really appropriate.
I'm not dispensing legal advice here. I'm telling you about what happened to the notaries. That's all.
what Justice McKee wants to say something before we proceed further.
I've been looking at these drafts extensively and marking them up, throwing them away, and marking them up again, and in consultation with the judge and other members of the quorum court, it seems that we've identified several problems that we face as the county when it comes to roads and subdivision of property and different things like that. Some of those problems we have alleviated to a certain extent with the ordinance that we adopted, limiting the roads that we would maintain. We know that other problems still exist. I'm not comfortable at this time saying that any of these drafts adequately goes after those problems and deals with those problems. I don't even know that they can be edited in such a way that they can. I think that it would be in the court's and the public's best interest if we looked at that list of problems and tried to deal with them more on an individual basis, perhaps through ordinances or other things that the county can do to solve some of those problems, to alleviate some of those things that we've heard the stories of people having problems. So at this time, I'm going to move to table these drafts until we can, number one, we're having a study done to find out what roads are the county's, what roads are not. So I believe it would be in our best interest to wait until that is done before we move ahead with any ordinance that would try to alleviate those problems.
Are you moving to shut down my presentation?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I do my best not to interrupt you. I move to table those drafts, and I would be happy for Clay to go ahead and make a presentation after that. We want you to be able to have your say.
Well, this is one of those drafts that you're tabling.
Absolutely.
I'd like you to consider it.
Absolutely. So I move to table.
Motion to table on the second, but it's not debatable. All those in favor of tabling the proposed ordinances signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
One nay. The ayes have it. All right, Mr. Herrmann,
We want you to be able to speak.
it's your turn.
That just means we're not going to consider them this evening.
Okay. I would like to thank the chairman, Justice Griffin, for allowing me to make the presentation. Thank you. And I thank you for meeting with me over lunch and allowing me to make my pitch to you and make my appeal to you to consider this ordinance and to reject the others. And I also thank Judge Davis. He was fully willing and very gracious, and he and his wife and my wife had dinner Sunday a week ago, and he allowed me to make my case to some extent during the dinner and share with him some materials. And I want to say thank you, Judge Davis, for allowing me to do that. And I appreciate your willingness to visit about that. I didn't know if you would or not, and I thank you that you did. And I wanted to meet with all of the justices on this committee privately beforehand, but I was busy. I had work to do. I have another job I do besides do PowerPoint presentations for the quorum court committees. You're sympathetic to, Matt?
A little bit.
But I did send some materials, and I've even today sent you an email this afternoon. If you check your email, there's a link to, that's maybe part of what you're concerned about, a link to a demo of part of what this program has that you have now, and also this whole PowerPoint presentation. I emailed that to all of you. So if you want to review this in the future or just keep it for future reference, you have that now in your email. Information versus regulation. Why the Garland County Legislature should choose the information version of the Garland County Subdivision and Development Ordinances among the ordinance options. That's my plea to you, my case that I'm making to you. This is meant to be an attention-getting intro, and I don't know if you can make out the purple hues don't come through very well on this projector, but that's a picture that Representative Mickey Gates' son posted on Facebook of his foot. bit by a copperhead and still recovering from that. And you might see he does not recommend putting "get by a copperhead" on your bucket list. Things to do before you die. So now that you have given me your attention, here's a picture with Mickey Copperhead Gates and Justice Photo Bomber Matt McKee. And some of you may know why I'm saying that, because I have a lot of pictures of various people, and Matt's in a lot of them. I wasn't trying to get Matt in some of them, but he sees a camera and he jumps and bombs in. So he's got a reputation for that, doesn't he? And I have a confession to make. It's my fault about Mickey. Not the snake bite, though. A long time ago, 20 plus years ago, I ran for JP. I talked to Mickey about running as a constable. He was not involved in politics at that time as a candidate. Now, I even paid his $50 filing fee to close the deal to get him to run. I lost my JP race, JP 13, both times that I ran. And Mickey was elected constable, and he went on to run for JP 13, the same office I ran for. And he won that JP race too. And then he wouldn't leave, as you all, most of you know, for 2 decades. And now Larry Rainey is JP 13 over here, and he's having filed for that office with no opposition, no literature, no signs, no speeches necessary, no blood, no sweat, no tears expended, and no praying for success. Clearly, life isn't fair. The problem we're looking at is the county judge has informed the Quorum Court that he has increasingly had to deal with spending time with requests for maintenance of private roads, and that the cost to service private roads has been escalating. And evidently for a number of reasons, and Judge, maybe you can read these and tell me if I missed any, but a number of reasons, it's often hard to say no to those requests because, one, tax-paying property owners think they are entitled to that service. And neighbors may have had private roads serviced by the county in the past, maybe under different judges, county judges, and so why not take care of my road too? In some circumstances, the law does allow, as you all, I think, know, the county to service private roads. So the question asked, if you can't, why not for me? If you can, if it's allowed, and voters may support an opponent in the next election if the favor they want is not granted, and that was true. You know of a case probably that I got some support for. Somebody that was very much the case for. I didn't promise him anything though that you didn't promise him either. He didn't get a promise from either of us to take care of that. But it can be hard to say no to an elderly widow who wants her road fixed. And you might see that gun is pointed right over there to Judge Davis. Passage of a Garland County Subdivision and Development Ordinance has been proposed as a way to mitigate this problem. Now we're tabled. 5 options to consider, and these are 5 options that I've heard here now. And do not enact a subdivision and planning ordinance. That's one thing. Address the motivating concerns in other ways. You just spoke to that. Enact the proposed 37-page version of the subdivision and planning ordinance that was submitted to the Quorum Court over a year ago and has been resubmitted recently along with the 15-page short version, choice number 3 of the subdivision and planning ordinance. And then number 4, enact an amended version of one of the proposed plans. And seemed like that was going to be the plan as of your last meeting. And some of you did some work looking at that and have not arrived at a happy answer. And then 5 is what I'm proposing here for you to say yes to. Enact the proposed 10-page information version subdivision and planning ordinance that you have before you. And then information versus regulation. And I know for Larry this is probably especially hard to even consider because he's been a planning commissioner and worked with all kinds of regulations for years. But Can the concerns, here's a question please ask yourselves, can the concerns that now motivate you to consider enacting a Garland County Subdivision and Development Ordinance be effectively addressed in a way that does not burden Garland County property owners with regulations, and in a way that does not infringe on the property rights of citizens?
I think it can.
And I do too. The short answer is yes. Thank you, Larry. A vote of this committee to send a due task recommendation of the information version that you have before you to the full Quorum Court, and the Quorum Court's passage of the ordinance in August, which may not be feasible with the current tabling, but nevertheless, if that were to happen, it would bring a happy conclusion to it as early as August to this whole issue. Is it possible to finish that early? I said yes again. Why? Because, for one thing, no public hearings are needed prior to passage of this ordinance, because no new burdensome regulations will be imposed on property owners. You will not grow government in the process. You will not increase taxes or fees to administer it. You will provide an informational service that many constituents will appreciate, doing no harm in the process. And you will have greatly alleviated the county judge's private road maintenance problem. The best answer to the 10-page information version of all the options you have before you is this one. It effectively addresses the private road maintenance problem. But to be fair, there are things it does not do that both the 37-page ordinance and the 15-page ordinance as written do. It doesn't, this one doesn't require any new hires to administer and enforce it. It doesn't require any new taxes or fees to pay for it. It doesn't make criminals of property owners who deed part of a parcel of land they own without the permission of the county judge. It doesn't require the services of Sheriff McCormick's people for enforcement. And you can imagine a deputy showing up at someone's door saying you're under arrest for executing a deed involving a parcel split without the county judge's permission. You have the right to remain silent, etc. It doesn't require the services of a prosecutor for violators. It doesn't require a judge or jury to try offenders. It doesn't require the county judge to make difficult decisions of who he will waive the ordinance requirements for and who he will not. It doesn't require any space in Sheriff McCormick's new detention center to house subdivision and development ordinance violators. It doesn't hinder or prevent real estate agents like myself and like Justice Aguayo from being able to successfully serve their customers and clients in various scenarios involving parcel splits. It doesn't discourage economic development in Garland County by creating more government red tape. It doesn't interfere with the constitutional right of a property owner to deed all or part of their alloidial holdings, and that's a word that's in the Arkansas Constitution to describe how all land in Arkansas is held, without needing permission from a government official. And if we are not really going to enforce the provisions of whatever ordinance is passed, then rejecting the other options and choosing the information version will spare us from having yet one more law on the books, Matt, or Justice McKee, among all the others that aren't enforced now, or worse, that are enforced selectively. How will this work? Number one, pass the ordinance. Number two, post buyer beware notice on the official county website. And there's a demo of that available not on the official county website, on an unofficial, not produced by the county website, garlandcounty.info/buyer-beware. Now, if it were approved by the county, that or something along those lines could be posted if this ordinance were passed on the official county website. But you can look at that now if you wish. Include a downloadable PDF of the tri-fold brochure on the website, which would allow people to print them out for themselves if they're not immediately available from the county for their use. And 4, email notice of the new ordinance when you pass it with the buyer beware link to all the local news media, including David, and to Hot Springs and John, editor of Hot Springs Daily back there, and the Board of Realtors, Hot Springs, and the Hot Springs Village Board of Realtors, and all the title companies in Garland County, the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce, the Hot Springs Village Area Chamber of Commerce, law firms that execute real estate closing, all the county offices, and it costs nothing to do that. Print and distribute brochures for county offices that deal with real estate matters, boards of realtors, title companies, Chamber of Commerce, and other locations, and voila, problem solved. Realtors will make customers and clients aware of the county-provided disclosure for 2 reasons. 1, sharing important, relevant information is part of providing excellent service. And 2, fear. We don't want to have to hire the likes of Justice Ray Owen or County Attorney Rob Ohm to defend us in court from lawsuits by aggrieved parties or at real estate commission ethics hearings. And you might ask, Rebecca, as a realtor who has been at that long enough to know, Justice Rebecca Arguello can confirm these 2 points from her own experience. Title companies and others will quickly make the public aware of the county-provided disclosure for similar reasons. And to encourage awareness of the county disclosure, boards of realtors and individual real estate firms, title companies, and others are very likely, especially if they are asked to do so, to post a link to the disclosure on their websites, as I have already done on the Herrmann Realty website right here. It says buyer beware. And click that and it pulls up. You'll see here shortly. And what it pulls up right now is this, and you can see this is the garlandcounty.info domain name, and it says buyer beware, and it has a county seal here, which is in question, but this is meant to be a demo, largely, of what this would look like. And so you can see first, it's easy to find. It addresses the primary problem that Judge Davis has spoken to immediately with the private road issue, private roads. And then if we go down here, you can see this is currently what's on the side. There's a maintenance of private roads is not the responsibility of the county road department. Buyers of real estate are encouraged to personally confirm, blah, blah, blah. And then there's some links on here. This right here, Ellen, is the county road standards. If somebody clicks that, if you go to that site now and click that, it'll pull up the county road standards from that link. This here is the county GIS map. You can click that and pull it up. And when the judge finishes with his people that are working on the road map finish, and the whole county we have a layer of data, then that can be included on that GIS thing, and people can go there, put in their address, and see immediately what the status of their road is, or the address that they're looking at, the area that they're looking at, considering buying, to see if it's a private road or a public road, or if it's not yet been determined what it is. And then the other information that's on here is partly on there because it's valuable information to people that are looking at real estate, and it helps draw traffic to the site. People will, when they go to this site, they may want to look up floodplain information, or they may want to look up septic system information, but the first thing they'll see when they go there is that road information, and that'll be a reminder to them, and whenever they go there, of that information, and the message will be out there very effectively. So the 100-year floodplain is here. This is a link here to the floodplain map service. Here is a link again to the Garland County GIS map, where you can go and turn on a layer and look at the floodplain, the FEMA maps, and see what the floodplain information is for anywhere in the county. And that's already provided by by the county GIS system. And then here we have septic systems, and there's a link here to on-site wastewater frequently asked questions from the health department. So you can click there, and there's a long list of frequently asked questions that have to do with septic systems and such. People can go to, click from here, and also the phone number and address of where they can go and visit the health department to deal with septic system issues all in one place. Surveys is another big issue for real estate matters. Some notes here to encourage people about the advisability of the survey and things that it can spare them problems from. And there's also a link here, right here. This is the online plat retrieval system that the state operates. And here also, links to those for information about the survey. And one more important issue is the ETJ issue. And here we have information about the ETJ, and this map above here on this right now if you go, you can click that and it will pull up a PDF of the entire city planning map, and it'll show where the area is their planning area and where the city claims to have governing jurisdiction and extraterritorial jurisdiction outside the city limits. So people can look at that, and then they can also, in addition to looking at that planning map, they can go here to, where is it? The planning area map? Oh, over here, the county GIS map again, and there's a layer for the planning area there. So you can turn on that layer on that map, put in any address, and see whether or not you're in the city's planning area and affected by the ETJ issue. And then down here is the Hot Springs Subdivision Code. Just click that and it'll go right to the city subdivision code, so you can see, well, if you are in the ETJ, what are the rules that apply to me as from the city of Hot Springs that they claim to have a right to impose on me. And then here, that's a link to the latest act that deals with the subject of extraterritorial jurisdictions. The Mickey Gates Act, actually, the one that he worked on. That's the latest act that deals with that the legislature was passed. And then at the very bottom, Judge Davis, I want you to note here, I've got a little picture of you, and it says Rick Davis, Garland County Judge, an address, but there's no phone number, because no phone number is needed. And there's no phone number is needed because you don't need to call Judge Davis about maintaining your private road, because that information is published above. Refer to that. We're not inviting them to call you here, unless you want it on there. We put your cell number on there too. Okay, so I point out to you that Mark Twain made an interesting statement way back. He said, "No man's life, liberty, or property is safe while the legislature is in session." And the committee of the Garland County Legislature is in session right now, and in a few days, the next regular session of the Quorum Court will be in session. And so, as Samuel Clemens said, our liberty and property rights are not safe. But with a motion and a second and a unanimous vote in favor, you can do good and do no harm by sending the information version of the Garland County Subdivision and Development Ordinance to the full Quorum Court with a do pass recommendation. And an important question to ask yourself is, what have you got to lose by doing that? If this solution does not work, as advertised, you can have public hearings, amend, repeal, replace, and go back to adopting the failed methods that the city of Hot Springs and the federal government use to stimulate growth and economic development, which is more and more regulations. So please vote to give information instead of regulation a chance in Garland County. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You put a lot of effort into this, and I appreciate that.
Oh, I could say if anybody wants to ask me anything else, that's fine.
Okay, so a developer proposes a subdivision, and he wants the roads to be county roads. How does he go about providing the information, or what information would he have to provide to make sure the county would accept this road?
Well, if it were me, one thing he can first do is he could go to this buyer beware notice, and he could look under private roads, and he could click that link that says county road standards, and you can see what the county road standards are, what he has to make his roads like in order for the county to accept them. It would probably be wise to communicate ahead of time before he did the work with the road department and maybe with the county judge too, to make sure that he was. Pardon me? Come and talk before they ever start. Dorothy?
Why on earth would the developer not pay for his own roads? I mean,
She's talking in perpetuity.
oh, forever.
Future maintenance.
You need to have them taken over by the county, build them to the standards that are required before the county will say, yes, we are now going to call these county roads and be responsible for maintaining them. I think, is that correct?
There's a process you got to adhere to. And if you go out there and build it and don't adhere to the process, and we're not in the process, then it's not going to be accepted.
If you're not in the process, there's no way for you to know the process.
Is that process already in existence?
The process is there. The problem is nobody comes to the county and then after they build it and say, we want you to accept this. It's not ever going to happen. I'm not going to accept it.
Well, let me throw in, Justice, or Hala, that what you're saying right now could be added to this information here, and then it would be available to everybody. They say, if you're considering building a county road, step 1, communicate with the county judge, tell them what your plans are, because they're going to need to be involved in, I guess, like in inspecting compaction and how that's done and different things, underlayment, whatever else. So you're going to be involved in that.
I think we should use it.
But let it be made readily available to the public. Figure out what those things are that need to be said to the public and make them available right here.
What you've got here is good information, and that's what got this started with our meetings with the city and others and activities that were going on out there that have led to some situations that are going to present problems to the county, not this year, maybe not next year, but someplace after that.
There's a lot of good information.
Yeah, a lot of it.
This is something.
I really like it. I like the idea of having this handout there.
Something you guys got to do is figure out how we're going to do it. So,
And the problem is that I think it's got to start from the very beginning. When you start subdividing this property, buyers need to know, and the contractors or realtors going to have to tell them up front, because that's probably where the problem is everybody finds out after the fact.
Well, and yes, after the fact, and I think a lot of the.
why is the realtors and the title companies not going to come up front for 30 years? If you answer that question.
That was my main concern
What do we have all this problem if that's successful?
when Clay and I talked about this, and he showed me this brochure. I think the brochure is great, but in my opinion, it is something that the real estate companies and the title companies ought to be responsible for putting all this information together and updating it and keeping it updated. I don't think it's the county's responsibility.
Okay, well, here it is, and I'm a member of the village and the Hot Springs boards of realtors, and I'm a member of the board of directors and one of the directors for the Hot Springs Village.
So what I just heard you say is you could help solve this problem.
I have right here.
Have not even been involved. Having us not even involved.
No, because if you're not
fine with me.
No, it's not fine with me. Let me make a point. When you get a disclosure, and I brought a copy of it to Larry when we had lunch, but let's just go. When you get a seller's property disclosure, when you're looking at buying a home and you ask for a property disclosure, that is not written by, that is not filled out by the real estate agent. It is the seller's disclosure about his property to you. And the realtors are not going to be liable for representing as that information is coming from them. Here's the information I'm giving. No, this is his to you, and our name isn't even on it. On those forms, have you seen them before?
So this is the issue.
And so we're not going to be liable for that.
I know.
Because how do we know what you're doing from day to day? But it's your business to know what your rules are, and it's your business to disclose that to the public.
And that's the issue here, because government is forced. Because it is not in everyone's best interest to disclose those things. So that's why we're looking at these things.
Well, I'd say it is in everybody's best interest except the crook.
I know,
To
but that's.
disclose these numbers.
I'm going to suggest this.
Let Ray talk.
One of the things that we haven't addressed, that I haven't seen you address here, is the problems that are associated with a few sort of major developers, if you will, who have done unrecorded subdivisions. They sell their, and then they leave these people high and dry with crummy roads and all sorts of other problems. And I don't know, I think that, and Matt probably doesn't agree with me on that, but I think we need to be able to have some sort of a mechanism to keep those people from being raped like they are. And that's, I'm not talking about honest real estate agents, because a lot of this type of stuff is not done through a real estate agent. A lot of it is done by the individual who makes up his own unrecorded contract and sets these things up. They don't even show up, they don't even pop up on the record because they're never recorded until the guy finally pays it off, and then what he's got is a piece of dirt surrounded by dirt that's not even public roads, and probably by that time the roads have washed out and they're terrible. That's I would like to be able to see us at least talk about addressing those problems, because you and I both know the names of some of these folks that have been doing this for years.
And, thank you, very good points. I will answer in part by saying this does address that in a very specific way. And let me say what that specific way is. When someone goes, if this information is available, and the most prominent thing about it is the first thing item on it is the private road maintenance issue. And there's these brochures, and they're in the, if somebody goes to record a deed or to get information about real estate, they're in the assessor's office, display, and in the circuit clerk's office where deeds are recorded. And when somebody goes up to do those things, or if they're going to use a title company, if they go to the title company, and the title company has since gotten this communication from you, from the official government of the county, that you have this buyer beware disclosure, it's not them making the disclosure, it's them connecting their customers to your disclosure. They don't want to be liable either, and they don't want to be sued for negligence and not looking out for the interests of their customers. And so, disclose. When there's a disclosure to be had, that's the song that is sung by real estate agents far and wide now is disclose. Not us making up our disclosures and telling what, but if there's a disclosure from the seller, make sure that's, if you see something and know something about the property that's in question, you better disclose it. If there's a government buyer beware property information disclosure, such as it is, better let the customers know about it. Everybody in Garland County who's looking at, and there may be some that get by. If somebody goes to a private individual and they never do, and they do it all in-house and they don't even record the deed, they hold it, and it's a contract for deed, and they wait till they go bad and then sell it again.
See, and that's what the problem is.
But actually, your stuff's got a lot of good information. No question about it. You've done a lot of good work on that. But it does not, in my opinion, it doesn't appear to me to address the situation with regard to the folks that are they're buying 40 acres or 1,000 acres, whatever, warehousing, and they're cutting up into pieces. And
so you take some of these brochures over to their real estate office or their place of doing business, and you let them know, here's some disclosures that the county government has done that you had better make sure that you let your customers know about so that you don't get sued by them in the future for doing that.
So, you're saying that these guys finance the lot? I mean, normally a lender requires a due diligence.
not these, Ellen. These are just chunks of land that somebody's had. They brought a surveyor in, and they've laid off roads, and they've laid off lots.
They finance it themselves?
Yeah,
It's just a pay-as-you-go type deal. Yeah, they just simply say, $1 down, $1 a week, or whatever, and ultimately in 10 years we'll give you a deed to it.
Well, Ray, a lot of that around the county now with White House.
I've been to some of those places, and it's not good.
Well, let me say, I'm not against, as a matter of principle, people being able to do business that way. What I am against is, and what apparently is the case, there seems to be the case, is that those people are given the idea that the county's going to take care of their roads when they're not. And so the judge has to deal with phone calls and maybe visits from angry people, and some of those people do lawsuits.
Clay,
Yeah.
real quick, we're not going to vote on this tonight.
Okay.
You have done a great job putting together good information. When we did the dog ordinance, there were some proposals early on where it would not have only affected the people who were causing the problems, it would have impacted everybody in the county that had a dog, and negatively, and it would have imposed a burden. And when it came to completion, what we had was a deal where we gave the judges some teeth to handle those issues where those individuals who were actually causing the burden to the taxpayer and to the individual citizens were the ones that had to bear the cost. So that's why I tabled this tonight, because I think that is the best solution to these problems, is to find ways that, I like this, and I think that absolutely something like this will probably happen. But we also need to find ways where those people who are adding costs to the county taxpayer and burdening the rest of us have to bear the costs.
Well, and okay,
We
but
agree
I
on
would say
This
you don't have.
cannot be all that we do. This can't be all that we do.
Well, it could be what you do, and then you could see how it works out. And if it turns out that there's still a lot of problem going on that needs to be addressed, you could address that later. But this would, in my opinion, cure 90% of the issue.
That's why I wanted this to take some more time.
And it would do it with doing no harm to anybody, except maybe making it harder for some criminals to get away with what they might otherwise do.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.